Hey guys, this is episode 3 of the All Time Podcast. I'm Marcy. I'll be your host today, and I'm joined as usual by May, Leafy, and Jack. Today we're going to be going through 59 through to probably about 30. So strap yourselves in. It's going to be a good one. Any comments before we start?
Nope.
No, sir.
Ready to get started.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Jack. So we'll start with 59. That's DJ from Pearl Islands.
We stand DJ in this household.
Puzzle God.
Puzzle
DJ
God.
was robbed due to Drake just being terrible in challenges.
Yep.
Yeah, he survived 5 tribal councils? So if it had been an average tribe that didn't keep losing, he probably would have made merge. And he was also robbed of being an outcast because he was
It was
one
the outcast
eliminated.
challenge they lost.
Yep. And
Yep.
that's when he left.
He
He
did
also- he
all
won
the trading challenges, and he beat
won
SM
fire,
in
didn't he?
Fire.
Yeah, he was the one he was the one who carried them through their one challenge win. And yeah, I think at Final Four, when their tribe was down to 4, they had to make fire because Thomas flipped and voted SMM.
Yeah,
and so
in order
DJ
to
and
keep
SMM had to
DJ,
make fire. Yeah.
because DJ was so good at challenges, they wanted to keep.
Mhm.
Thomas wanted to keep him.
Yeah. And
But
so
yeah.
otherwise, I think DJ was quite a strong player. He was pretty good socially. If you survive 5 tribal councils and there are only 8 people in your tribe, I think it shows you're a pretty good player.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate once again that Drake was terrible because 11th doesn't really. You look at 11th on his placement and it's just but
And yeah,
I
I think
doesn't
there's a
tell the whole
chance-
story.
I think there's a chance he makes a run in merge if he got there.
Oh, for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that especially talking to him outside of the game, he seems to have a really smart mind about things like that,
Mm.
and he's social enough to be able to work things like that. So I definitely think that he had a big chance.
And he was robbed of 12th place, gang.
That's true too.
Yeah. Robbed of everything.
Absolutely. Just the robbed king.
He got fan favorite though.
He did get
So-
fan
True.
All right, so moving on, another Pearl Islands person at 58. We have Thomas.
Ooh, Thomas. He hosted me one time. Or I should say a few times actually. But
Wow.
he had a lot of control, it seemed, in the Drake tribe pre-merge.
And then got to merge
Um,
and was
Dirk didn't know his name.
yeah, Dirk. I was gonna say very memorable because Dirk just didn't even know who he was, and then just rocked up and voted him out.
I think for Thomas, I found a pattern that whenever one tribe is up the other in tribal lines when they first merge, they stick together for the first vote. I think that's something I've just noticed in general
When-
as I've been watching all.
It happens with the show too. Oh.
Well, a big strategy that I like to try and implement is that in my personal games is that if you're up in numbers, you want to keep the numbers even if you flip.
Right.
So say if you're only up by one number, say 5-4, you want to stick together for that one vote to go up 2 numbers so that if you flip on each other, you don't give up that advantage. Which is
Right.
why you often see that first tribal lines stick together initially.
Right. It's so important. It makes you so much. It makes you so much more important down the line, and it gets you just 2 down the line. That first vote.
Yeah, not just that, but it also gives you options, and you don't pigeonhole yourself into one strategy that you can implement.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not just stuck being seen as that's the guy that flipped the first vote. He'll never work with us again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we'll move on here to 57. This is Ulka from Australian Outback.
Ulko. He was a sweetheart. I was joking about this to someone. At every single tribal you'd go to, Ulka would slide into your DMs and he would say, "You know what we have to do." No context, no foreshadowing, just you know what we have to do. Every single tribal, and I just thought it was hysterical.
The mob
'Cause,
boss of the Australian outback.
half the time his allies were like, "No, we don't." But he was one of the people who was doing really well pre-merge. He was good with Lissa, he was good with Hugh, and again, I really think it just came down to the other tribes sticking together for a while. And I do remember,
That's true.
Marcy, you said you didn't want to like vote him out even, but then Chloe
No,
came. Yep, keep
me
going.
and it was Ulka was supposed to be an Ant-Man spot. It was supposed to be me, Danny, Ulka, and Lissa as a four-man thing to flip the game. But then like 5 minutes before the vote, Chloe said, "All right, let's do Ulka." And at that point, we had to pretend like we were still tribe strong, so we had to go with it. So it was just like a real unfortunate way that he went out.
Another Marthy synthesizer biting the dust too early. Marcy,
A consistent
everything you touch dies.
It's true. Don't be friends with me, kids. Even these guys in this call will tell you, even not in the game, just don't be friends with me.
And
Alright,
another thing I think about Alka was that he had won that first immunity challenge. And the thing about winning the first immunity challenge is it sets you up a bit to be a physical threat. So if someone's going to stick to tribal lines, they're probably going to vote you out. That's what I've noticed. Anyway.
Alright, moving on. We have a Borneo player. This is Luke from season 1.
He is the reason why May didn't get a perfect game. So that is something.
He is.
Alright, I actually love Luke then. My hero.
Wow. Okay, Marcy, do you want to talk about him then, since you clearly like him so much?
Yeah, so Luke is the GOAT of Survivor. He has really good reads on as a jury member and understands who to vote for at the final tribal council. Anyone else want to add something?
Yeah, okay.
I would agree.
Luke was he was definitely one of those people who like tried quite hard, especially come merge, to like be a strategic mastermind, but he was quite subtle about it as well. He wasn't like game botting everyone, but he was quite confident because he had such a good relationship with Golden, who was on the other tribe. So come merge, he felt like he really had his toes in both tribes, which he definitely did. But the thing is, I think he got a bit too cocky, is the best way to describe it, because he was like, "Oh, May, I think you can vote for me so that people can't tell we're close, and I'll get everyone else to vote for Issa." And then what he didn't expect was that his allies weren't as close to him as he thought. So all I had to do was go to Nick and Soup and be like, "Hey, so Luke and Golden have like this really good relationship happening. We should split them up." And so they didn't stick to him. So I think Luke was playing a really good game in that he knew what was happening on both sides. But I think he just got a bit too confident in his position and didn't really try to make sure that no one was going to flip on him. And then like his relationship with Golden was not hidden at all. Like at all.
Everyone know that they were friends and shit. Like
everyone knew they were friends. Because Golden would go around telling everyone, he's like, "Yeah, doesn't matter what's happening, I'm just not voting Luke out." And everyone was like, okay, so we'll vote Luke out before that gets too powerful.
Yeah, that's rough when you get put in like such an obvious duo like that. You'll notice it sometimes when it doesn't even have to be you doing it. If your duo partner spills the beans, it might spell disaster for you.
Yeah, it's always smart to like hide those duos if they're true.
All right, so moving on. Next, we have Savvy, formerly from Africa, but this time playing in the Amazon.
He was also a part of the Africa Alliance that went one by
2-3.
one by one.
Yeah. That
I
Africa
think Savvy
Alliance really like killed, like flipped the game when
it did.
they got together on that swap. Because had that not been there, I'm unsure as to what would have happened. Because like I think we talked about, was it Scoob that got flipped on?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just if they didn't rock up together, who knows what would have happened.
I do think Savvy, I remember being really impressed with Savvy's pre-merge game in that everyone trusted him and told him things, but he wasn't seen as like the big guy. That was Twigs more or less. Like everyone saw Twigs as like the big threatening figure, and they just all trusted Savvy. But I think once the Africa alliance came into play, and also Bailey and Savvy, when the merge hit, and people asked like, "Oh, how did Twigs go? Like, did you guys flip on Twigs?" I know Bailey and Savvy had conflicting stories, so immediately people became really distrustful of them.
Yeah, if you're gonna lie,
And
make sure your stories match up.
yeah,
Especially in a game where you're not talking face to face. In a game where you've got like chat logs, and you can like
because
really
people can go
easily.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of the big downfall. Like I think the Africa Alliance could have done so much more damage if people trusted them more, because people immediately just didn't trust any of them, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Because Kayla also didn't trust Princess. TML and Triple no longer trusted Savvy and Bailey, and so this kind of happened.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, we have number 54. This is Cassie from Thailand.
And she was a part of the Shuigan tribe that could not
Yeah.
stop losing.
Is she the furthest Chewy gone, or was Madeline also Chewy?
I think
Madeline beat
Madeline
her by
was-
1.
Yeah.
Well, that's impressive still to make 5th on off a tribe that couldn't stop losing. Was Cassie an alternate as well that came in for
She
the ults?
was.
Yeah, she came in
was.
later.
Yeah, so that's very impressive that you could like what was the word that we used, like assimilate yourself
Yeah.
into the tribe and just like blend in to like survive those first votes where everyone was already like well known with each other.
And then once the merge happened, she was able to like connect with people like Tyler, and that helped her get into a better position.
I also feel like Cassie was kind of robbed in that on the day of her vote out, she even self-voted because she was away. And I feel like
yes,
if
was.
she
I think
had
it was
caught
like
in
a road
wind,
trip.
She was camping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if she had caught in wind of like her name being thrown out there, she might have been able to do something to maybe flip it on Madeline. Because even Madeline was ready to vote Cassie because Madeline said Cassie and her played 2 games that were far too similar. And so that's why Madeline wanted her out as well.
One of those ones always like even later in the game go AFK on the wrong day.
Yeah. But
I'm
Final
glad that
5,
we-
like,
I'm
she
glad that we
clawed her
changed
way
it now,
there.
though. That it gives people more time, and I think it will really show in the gameplay where like the better players can save themselves, and it will give like a more realistic, I feel, results on the seasons. All right, so moving on. At 53, we have Miles, another Africa alumni, but this time playing Pearl Islands.
He was on the Morgan tribe. I feel like when the merge hit and he wasn't the merge boot.
No,
I
it
feel
wasn't.
like
That was Thomas.
that was Thomas. I feel like he wouldn't initiate as much socially. I feel like that put him in a bad spot usually. Like he would expect people to like do the work for him almost. Not trying to like say a whole bunch of bad stuff about him because he did play pretty good. But I feel like that was one of the weaknesses of his.
I feel like he just had a stronger like conception of him than he should have had. He believed that he was like this mastermind and like this proper villainous player that was going to like dip his toes in absolutely everything. But a big problem, especially in this season, that he was on the same tribe as someone named Dan, who was exactly who he was trying to be.
Yeah. Fair play.
Yeah, Danny Fairplay, and then so Miles just got like left behind with like. But I will say that I do believe he beat his Africa placement because I
Yeah,
think
he
that
did. He
he
got 10th,
Did by
right?
one.
he didn't make the
made
jury,
jury.
and yeah.
So like that
So
was like, wow.
Also, I remember Miles was in a good spot, but then what happened was, do you remember how SMM like was kidnapped? And so Miles, Lee, Dan, the three of them had been planning like a thing for the three of them to work with people from Drake. And then what Miles did was he basically spilled it all to SMM. And so then SMM goes to Lee and Dan and says, "Hey, Miles said this. How exciting." And Lee and Dan are like, "Miles, you weren't supposed to tell." Like it just
Yeah.
you're not supposed to tell. And so that immediately made Miles look like less of an ally to them.
I
And
believe also that it made him the first Morgan to sort of get cut because Thomas was Drake, and then after that, when SMM and Joey started doing some damage into Morgan, Miles was the first to go.
And I think part of it was they thought there's a chance that Miles could flip. Hey, he's telling SMM all this info. There's like, so it's better to just calm now.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was supposed to be Claw, but Claw won immunity, so then it turned on to Miles, is what I remember.
It just happens. Sometimes it's just the perception that people have of you. If someone thinks that you might flip, then that paranoia will take over, and they would just make sure that you go.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on now to 52. I think this is our first player who made All Stars, but their original placement. This is Hugh from Australian Outback.
The godfather of them all.
I love you.
I wrote when I was trying to do some notes, I said the original delusional mastermind. I think that describes him well.
Yeah, he surely was a major character in pre-merge. Whether you liked him or not, he was a major character, I think. And that
and I don't think anyone to this day has put the same, like even close to the amount of work that Hugh puts into this. Like he breathed this org.
And he's also very like from Aussie Outback. He's definitely one of the most memorable. It's hard to forget him. I remember in pre-merge, I know he made it through pre-merge with no one really wanting him out. I think he thought it's because everyone adored him, but it was mostly that they knew he'd a pretty good shield to have around. And he was definitely really proactive at the start of merge in that like he tried to like work out what was happening with both tribes. Then he made like a mistake. And Marcy, do you want to talk about that mistake?
Well, firstly, when we talk about like what he did at the start of merge, he didn't know that. I don't know why he didn't know that it was DMs or whatever. But he messaged me saying, like the first message we ever have in our DMs, I've just scrolled up to see it. It says, "So like, can you fill me in on your tribe dynamics? I know this is coming across fast, but I'm curious," which automatically raises red flags because someone that you've never met and haven't trusted wanting to know everything about your tribe is like unsure.
Not the best way to approach that.
Yeah, no. But to continue on what May said, that he made a big oopsie. Way back in the day before Rocks existed, the tiebreaker in a tie vote would be old votes. So if like say myself and May tied, if I had 2 votes in previous tribal councils and May had 0, I would go home. Hugh would, for some unknown reason that still to this day I can't figure out, he told everyone on our tribe that he got votes. And this is something that I remember May thought was hilarious, is that I thought he was being smart and like telling me because he didn't have votes and like we're trying to get the votes on him, and I thought he was trying to do this like massive like 4D chess play to like get the votes on him to protect his ally. But no, he just dumb and told us and ended up getting him kicked out.
Maybe you just wanted to brag about it. I guess we'll never know.
He also rubbed people the wrong way on his tribe, and after that, on the revote, 2 people flipped on him, so we never even had to go to old votes, even though he would have been the one to go.
Poor Hugh, man.
But like everyone
that
said,
was his big
massive
oopsie.
character. Just
Massive
needed
character, lots
to.
of personality and effort. He just
This
needed
was
to chill a bit.
Yeah, it was his first org too, which I understand a lot of people like they come out of the gates really hot because they watch Survivor and they want to be like your fair play or your Tony or everything like that, and they don't understand that the social impact is just as important as the strategic impact.
You're right.
I would say even more important, actually.
So would I. I feel like when it comes to social versus strategic, they always ask like, "What's more important?" I feel like it doesn't matter how amazing your plans are. If you don't
If you
have
don't
people
connect with
doing
them,
it with you, you're still one vote.
You can't be a good strategic player without being a good social player. It's pretty much
yeah.
how it goes.
All right, so
Um,
moving on to number 51, we have Twins from Marquesas.
Leafy, do you have stuff to say? Because she played with you.
Twins is super sweet. The hard part
Mhm.
with me is that I played with her and that we weren't always on the same page. Like she had her own plans and I had my own plans. It got to the point though where she wasn't a part of the inner group that was left, and that was the main reason behind her being voted out. I mean, there was still people who wanted to keep her, but she wasn't part of like the solid core of like Amy, Scooby, Bryson, Leafy, Josh, and that sort of. And then that had the satellite of Megan, and then Twins is also a satellite sort of alliance member. So it was hard to have both satellite members and be able to keep both as we moved forwards.
So she was playing good, just not as assimilated in your little core.
Right, and I think a big part of that is after the swap, she was not throwing and losing every single challenge, so she wasn't really like we were able to forge our bonds a little bit because we kept throwing together and going the tribal together and reinforcing those bonds. And while we were separated from Twins, we sort of grew closer to each other rather than apart. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so moving forward, we've got 50. We've reached the top 50, and this is another Marquesas player. This is Megan.
Another satellite. So I guess Twins and Megan were quite similar than Leafy.
In my eyes, yeah, but I guess from Megan's perspective, you can say the same thing about me. I mean, we were both outsiders to just the showmance that was Bryce and Scooby at that final four. We were both just sort of there in addition to the Lovebirds, but I mean, we both made it pretty far based on the same principles. We were both active, we were both kind, we were both loyal, so I think she and I played a pretty similar game.
I think for me, one of the highlights of Megan was pre-merge when she realized that her tribe was trying to throw the challenge. Like it was the same tribe that it was the tribe of Amy, Scooby, and Bryson were on. Like how they continuously tried throwing the challenges. So like the tribe of Sloth and Zach, they were attempting to do the same thing because they realized what was going on, and then Megan caught on, and she was like, "No, that's not happening," because she knew she probably was the boot at that point. Yeah, I think they ended up winning.
Yeah,
Every
they
single
did
one.
win. It was who could throw harder
Yeah.
that one. I remember Scooby legit just started the challenge and then left and came back like 5 hours later and then said, I give up or something like that. Like, and it was when that was happening too. I think she was the boot because once we hit merge, we heard from Sam that Sam had the number. Sam wanted Megan gone and that Megan was the boot. So that was pretty big for Megan right there.
All right, so we're going to keep on this Marquesas train and move on to 49, which is Sloth.
I only got to meet Sloth post merge. I mean, he seemed like a nice guy. Just the issue at that point, from my perspective, we just dedicated 4 rounds to throwing and getting his old tribe out, and he didn't make the most effort with me. And to be fair, I didn't reciprocate it either. Like it was sort of just we knew we were on opposite sides, whatever type of deal.
and after you spend all that time throwing to give yourself the advantage, to immediately go back on it to like flip on that would be a bit like asinine.
Redundant.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make much sense for me, in my opinion.
I do remember Sloth pre-merge was quite like I think he was like Scotty's second in command almost. Like they were both part of the majority, both part of the core. I do know Sloth rubbed Bryson the wrong way. Um, a few people rubbed Bryson the wrong way, but
A lot
Sloth
of
was
people do.
definitely one of them. And so, Bryson had no hesitation flipping on Sloth is another thing I remember.
I genuinely feel we could make a top 114 list on people that rubbed Bryson the wrong way.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
true. I think almost everyone who's played would be on it.
Exactly. Very, very good player that like this is Bryson now I'm talking about, that just like he doesn't hide. If he doesn't feel, if he feels a certain way about you, he will make it known.
Mm. And back to Sloth. I think Sloth was in a pretty good pre-merge position, but like similar to basically anyone who was in the Rotu tribe. Like I think the swap, even though he survived the swap, it didn't do him many favors because he lost all his allies on the other side. So then at merge, he didn't really have much he could do. I know he definitely tried though. I know he tried, but your course was very strong, Leafy. It was very strong.
Whoops.
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 That was Slot.
All right, so moving on to 48, we've got another All-Stars player. This is Nick 2.0.
I feel like Nick's game in All Stars was hurt mostly by he was busy with like work. I think
Yep.
he wasn't able to show his full potential.
And
I
I
also
think that's
believe that
especially important because he was on Mogo Mogo, a tribe that tribal after tribal was determined in the moment because of these heated debates.
Yeah, they were always
Yeah.
all over the place.
And Josh felt the same way on Mogo Mogo. He had work. Lissa sweet talked her way back into it, and Josh didn't have the time to respond. When he did, it was already, the tide was against them. And I think Nick sort of had that same disadvantage.
not only that,
Mm.
this is coming from someone who was dissolved into Mogo Mogo before Nick went home. They had already felt a certain way about Nick, and I think that his, I guess, like reputation might have preceded him of this sneaky player who believes he's the best type deal. As if, like, say, like a Johnny Fairplay would ever play again. People would be like, oh, well, like he's like, or like a Russell Hantz. Everyone knows how he is and would be reluctant to trust him.
Yeah, I think they came into the season realizing that Nick was like a player of the season type of player from season 1, and especially in some people's eyes, that kind of hurt him.
I think especially
Mm.
also he really showed his hand on the Josh tribal, where he shows what he can do when he like sets his mind to flipping something, and it made him even more of a target because they're like, wow, this guy can really do some damage if we let him. And he like sort of just flamed out from there.
I do remember saying in the last episode, or in the first episode actually, if you're going to take a shot at Nick, don't miss. Don't let him know that you're taking a shot. So I remember when Nick was voted out, he was very upset because he was at work. He comes back and everyone is reassuring him that the vote is yeet. Like it's definitely yeet.
Yeah.
No one is giving him anything else. They're like, yep, it's yeet, it's yeet, it's yeet. And so he's like, okay, I won't keep us waiting. I'll vote yeet. I just remember he was very upset because he was like, if I'd only known, if I'd only caught wind.
Also, like from Shapira being dissolved's perspective, what we were doing was like, me and Yeet were being like, look, we know it's one of us. I just hope that you pick me, and like I've shown that I'm the better choice. So we made it clear that we weren't even going to try anything. We were like, we just know it's us. We'll just like give us one more chance to do something. And then so we really tried to make it feel as if it was Mogo Mogo just like sending one to the wolves and saving the other. I also know that a big reason why he was upset is that the votes were locked in, and he was asking like if everything was all good, like did you vote me, blah blah blah, blah. And 666 kept being like, no, like it's not you, like we're safe, and because there's no idols or anything, so the fact that it kept lying and made like the blind side seem, I guess, like more real that it hurt.
Mm,
But I know that that's a big reason why he was upset.
yikes. Why lie?
Alright.
Like, if the votes are locked in and nothing's changing, why?
I can say this one word, Lisa. Lisa, yeah.
Lying's
Yeah.
also fun.
Yeah, lying.
That
Well,
can
first,
be.
lying is fun, and when you say don't lie, you might as well just ignore the message, right, May?
All right, moving on. Who's next, Marcy?
This is Dirk from season 7 in Pearl Islands.
Comp beast of the season.
Oh, Feast. He won like what? A few, and every single time they'd wanted to vote him out, and he just kept winning.
Was it 3 in a row that he won? Because I know he didn't win
Yeah,
more
I
than
think
3
so.
because everyone got to the 3 mark, and it's like
Yeah, there's
cursed. No
like a
one can win
first-
more than 3.
Yeah, no one can win more than 3.
But yeah, as soon as he became like in danger at some way, he just decided, nah, I'm not going home. I'm just gonna keep winning.
But one thing I liked about Dirk is like there's one thing like not just winning immunities, but then even when it was time to vote someone out, he did get his say. Like he did know what was happening and he would push a name forward, and like didn't just sit back and go, "Okay, I'm immune. Anything can happen now." I know he actually actively tried to control a vote or two. He wasn't as big as like Dan. I do remember he was just aware of Dan and trying to like sway people like towards that direction. If that makes sense.
Yeah, he was like trying to. He didn't sit on his laurels. Like even though he
Yeah.
was immune, he knew that there was a chance that he wasn't going to be soon, and was trying to make sure that people knew who the real targets were. Obviously, it didn't end up working out that way. When he did lose, they ended up getting rid of him. But like the effort is admirable. All right, we're gonna keep on a comp based trend right now. We're gonna go with Ryan from Thailand.
Ryan. Didn't
Let's
he
go,
only win
Ryan.
one individual immunity? Like
Yeah, I think like multiple people only won one immunity. I don't think anyone won more than one.
I thought he won 2, but
Mm.
I might be
Well,
my
his perception was all pre-merge, where people were like, "Oh, Ryan carried his tribe on pre-merge," and they kept winning. So threat.
Wasn't he like really good at like, was it like a math challenge or something that was live and everyone was like, oh my god, Ryan?
He was. I
I
think he
think
won
so.
that
I think
challenge
he
for
was
them.
doing it against 12 or something.
Yeah,
He was also
and
against 12.
was that like in the live challenges where they were just smack talking each other?
Yeah. I think they were mostly smack talking Scott though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then yeah, I feel kind of bad for him because like I think we mentioned earlier last episode with Gummy 2.0 where he does something in his eyes which is the nice thing. And he's genuinely, in his own mind, he's genuinely trying to be nice, but in a survivor sense, it's very like diabolical to tell someone that they're the vote. And in a final 6 situation where you don't need to flip that many people to get the vote to flip, Tyler was able to do that, and Ryan was the casualty of it.
I think from the beginning of Merge, I don't think Ryan was going to like play a winning game just because hear me out, just because he was part of that 3 with Mishi and Madeline. But Mishi and Mishi and
Michi and
Gummy, sorry, my
Gummy,
bad.
yeah.
But Mishi and Gummy were closer to each other than they were with Ryan. So, and then Ryan was very comfortable in that anyway. Like he wasn't like, sure, he got Madeline to flip and vote out Alexis last time, but Madeline was also like, if I stick with Ryan and Gummy and Mishi, then I'm at the 4. I'm a 4th over there. I'm not 3rd. I'm 4th. And so Madeline had every reason to go back and force rocks. And at the end of the day, I think Gummy and Mishi just didn't see Ryan as that close of an ally that they'd go to rocks for him. And like Rox is scary. Let's all be real here. Rox is terrifying. Like
Not
you
just that,
could
but
be
Rox in
the
the
one
final
voted
6.
out. Yeah, Rock's a final 6. Like a 1 in 4 chance of going is terrifying. 1 in 3, sorry. 1 in 3 because someone will be immune.
1 in 3 for someone that, like, is it that worth it to...
For someone you're going to end up cutting anyway.
Exactly.
Like, so, like, I think Ryan was playing a good game. He was very comfortable pre-merge. I don't think he was ever really going to, just because of how close Mishi and Gummy were, I think he was always going to be a third anyway.
But yeah, just the way, like, I remember his, up until, I guess, All-Stars, when we talked about the iconic Josh thing, I thought that this was, like, the moment of the server, his vote out. I thought the way that it all played out was insane to watch. I was, like, on the edge of my seat. I was going crazy. It was what made everyone fall more in love with Tyler than they already were. Just the way that he was able to just pull, like, a Houdini move and get out of, like, certain death.
It was similar to Lisa and Josh.
I was just about to point that out, yeah. But I think also what was fine was it was the verbal revote where Gummy and Mishi had literally moments ago just promised and swore up and down that, Ryan, we're doing this with you, we're going all the way. And then verbally, they just start to stab him in the back repeatedly. I think that was, like Marcy said, it was iconic.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, we're going to move on to Pixel from Amazon.
Pixel was a very sweet player. I just remember thinking she was the cutest. Like, she was so sweet.
She did have a path to victory.
She did. Like, people really liked Pixel, and like, they trusted her as well. And like, whenever they wanted someone to flip, they would either go to Pixel or Moss, or sometimes both of them. And I do think that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but near the end, when Pixel was voted out, it was because Triple and Kayla, mostly Triple, saw Pixel as the threat. Because I know they definitely did not see Moss coming.
Yeah, they saw Moss as the GOAT, and they thought Pixel would be the more strategic threat near the end, or I should say more of a jury threat at the final two. So they wanted her out.
Yeah. Yeah, because Pixel was quite social and nice. And I remember Pixel working hard to try flipping Moss to at least force fire. Like, I remember her working really hard on Moss right until the minute the votes were due. Like, I was constantly, like, in Pixel submissions going, Pixel, votes are due in 30 seconds. And she was like, wait.
Well,
like she worked hard, and I support that so much. She fought till the end.
Yeah, you gotta fight till the end. That's what you gotta do. It's like when you're on the chopping block, it's not over until the torch is snuffed. Yeah, I think we literally on the just like one person ago talked about how Tyler saved himself from certain death. We talked about how Lissa did. There are always ways out of things, and if you don't fight till the end, you'll never know.
And she fought hard, and I respect that so much.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to 44. It's a man that I stan. It's Yeet.
Chaotic Yeet.
Borneo Yeet. So Yeet from season 1.
Yes.
I've noticed a trend with Yeet, and it's that he will flip. He'll do a big flip. And he did that in Borneo. Like, he took out who everyone perceived was the godfather of Taji. And
Ludwig.
From what I remember, Ludwig, yep. So from what I remember, Yeet at every single tribal in Merge would make a joke about how he was going to flip. Right? Every single tribal, he'd go in the tribal chat and he'd be like, lol, guys, I'm gonna flip. And both tribes would like freak out. It was so funny, so chaotic. Everyone was like yelling in DMs. And I think Ludwig DM'd Yeet going, like, just trying to reassure him that, like, hey, don't flip. Like, we've got this, right? And it kind of rubbed Yeet the wrong way. When I spoke to Yeet about it throughout the game, he was always like, it feels like he's like trying to boss me around, which is something Yeet does not like. He doesn't like being.
Yes, no, he hates the. If
Mhm.
you find Yeet being like tagged with like a goat tag, he will do everything in his power to shed it. It doesn't matter if it's quote unquote like detrimental to his game or anything like that. He will flip in a way that maybe doesn't make sense, just to make sure that the tag is off him, to make sure that he goes down as someone that played the game rather than someone that rode coattails. I think it's something that's very important to him.
He's
Mhm,
certainly
and
not
so
going
he
to be
did that.
passive. He's not
What'd
gonna.
you s-
He's certainly not going to be passive about it. He's gonna do his best to
Mhm.
fix that.
Yeah.
And so if you're a big name, like watch out, because Ludwig was the big name of our tribe. And so he flipped, forced a tie, and on the revote, like he and Nick were like begging everyone to like do the big move with him. And so a few more people flipped and Ludwig was voted out. However, the thing about making a big move is that everyone like becomes very suspicious of you. Even the people you helped sometimes, like they'll become like a bit like, this guy made a big move. He can flip back. He can do anything. He is chaotic. And I
Yeah,
think
once
that was
someone
why.
flips, you know that they have the capability to flip, and it becomes
Mhm.
makes you very sus of them. And if you flip to an alliance on the other side, you're more often than not flipping to a large number in their alliance. Like you're going from most likely the bottom of your alliance to the bottom of their alliance.
Mhm.
So if they're going to
Yeah.
cut someone, it's most likely going to be you.
And so that's what happened. Nick just was like, okay, I've used Yeet for one vote, and so now I'm going to get him out. And so Nick started spreading lies about Yeet, and it even got to a point where Yeet was like, there was so much chaos that vote, and Yeet eventually was like, take me away, vote me out, everyone. Like, take me away. Like, oh, let me find the DM, because Yeet was trying to protect me, because I think at that point it was either me or Yeet. And Yeet was like, May, vote me out. I think everyone else is doing it. Don't sync with me. Vote me out. I remember that so clearly because
It's so cute.
it was
It's
very
something
cute.
very similar to what Lissa had said to me when she was getting voted out last season.
So Yeet did that. And then, so I was doing that. I put in my vote for Yeet. And then 5 minutes before the votes are due, Yeet's like, actually, May, I think we can change it. But like people were going offline. Issa had already self-voted because she was away. It was just too messy. And so poor Yeet ended up going home. He was very noble about it. He was very noble about it. He was a good player, though. He will make a move. He will make a big impact on a game, and I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to number 43 here, we have Princess.
Queen.
Formerly known as Amber.
Another Africa player.
I love her.
Yeah,
Villain.
I genuinely like love someone that's so unapologetic about the way that they do things. If they do something and like someone's like, why'd you do that for? They will tell you, and it doesn't matter if they rub you the wrong way. I'm not sure if the gender argument about how if a guy flips on people, he's more praised than girls are is true. But the time that I found it most true was with Princess, because she was chastised. She was like hated for just playing some game moves, and she didn't care. She's just like, this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing this because I think that it's the best for me.
Dude, like Marcy said, I love how she's just, yeah, I did that. So what? Like it was never an apology. Not that there needed to be one. Just I loved how she was just, yep, that's what I did. Yep, live with it.
Exactly, and if you go.
Oh, I was just going to say something I found hysterical was that even so, like for example, the Scoob vote, only 2 people didn't vote for Scoob, and that was Scoob herself and Kayla. So when Kayla goes to Princess, she's like, why'd you flip on Scoob? Princess is like, I didn't flip on Scoob. Scoob self-voted. And Scoob was like messaging Kayla at the same time going, bye. like, why did you flip? And Kayla's like, I didn't flip. Did you vote yourself? And Scoop's like, no. And like to the bitter end, Princess refused to admit she voted out Scoop. Like for no particular reason. Like she just did it for the fun. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, just very, very savage. There's no subtlety with her. She always like just will do what's best for Amber. That's it. Or Princess rather.
And
Alright.
you know what? I appreciate that. Like I think she came into every game wanting to be a villain. Like
Yep.
doesn't she aim for the OTT and N5?
She
Yeah.
wants an OTT and N5 for like I don't think she's ever had it, and she tries so hard.
She tries so hard, and you know what? We respect it. But yeah, I
Alright.
think she's a good player.
For sure.
Very strategic, very unapologetic.
Very underrated, I think, as well. So moving on, we have another All-Stars player. This is Tyler 2.0.
Tyler, I feel like he was in a pretty good spot in Sabuga, but I feel like he thought he had more control than what he did. Like I think he thought he could like manipulate people like May, and that wasn't going to really happen. But other people he had people like TML under his wing. Like he wanted to blindside TML, I think at one point. TML thought he was completely cool with Tyler and wanted to go far with him. So I think things like that, he played pretty good. And then obviously he ends up getting swapped at F10. And he makes
One of the cruelest swaps
in
all of
that's
Survivor.
a very cool swap, obviously. Because everyone's just trying to throw.
Yeah.
And he was in a good spot going into the swap. Or yeah, I should say that. It was supposed to be Bryson at that point, but I feel like he kept just making up one too many lies, and Ryan and SMM eventually caught on, and they're like, well, I guess it's safer to keep Bryson and get rid of Tyler because they didn't know if he was actually going to work with them going into merge. So that's pretty much what happened there.
Yeah, I was never able to meet him, and we were just away from each other the whole game. So, May, do you want to take some Tyler talk?
Oh, I was just like Tyler was definitely he was definitely comfortable in Saboga. Like I don't think he would have gone. But again, I do think he thought he had more control than he did. And so when things didn't go his way, he got quite upset sometimes, which like led to a bit of distance between him and his allies. And yeah, what I heard was like the main reason he was voted out where he was because at the swap he started like telling lies. I think what happens is when you're in a swap screwed position and you're at the bottom, like just try to make sure it's not you. And I think at some point, instead of accepting that it was going to be Bryson, I think he even tried to like
Flip it on a Mogo.
Flip it onto SMM.
Yeah.
It was. Then even like before that, during Saboga, when he was very comfortable, like there were some things he did that just felt way too like subtle as a hand grenade, like begging for Joey to be on our tribe, like begging really hard, saying that Joey is a comp beast when all of us are looking at Joey's not amazing comp performance, or like making it no secret that he and Joey are really, really good friends outside the game. And so obviously when Joey comes along, the rest of the tribe is like, Joey and Tyler, potential duo. Let's get them out. Like, let's stop it from happening. And so, like, there are just a few mistakes he made throughout All Stars that just kind of like didn't work well for him. Otherwise,
What I will say that I think that Tyler is a very good player that played in a season that didn't have as many good players. So when he came to All Stars and was doing some of the things that he would do in Thailand, there are people that can read subtext, people that can understand where you're going from this move, like 2 moves down the line where you're trying to position yourself. And once you can read into those things, you can trust people less and he makes you less of an ally.
Agreed.
All right. So speaking of Thailand, this is going to be our last one of this episode. Scott, number 41.
Scott, the one with the volleyball profile picture, I think.
Correct. Yes. SMB something.
Man who mutinied and everyone judged him for it, and the
They
whole
hated
logo
him.
of Sukjai became "fuck Scott."
They hated him. Like, just I don't know why. I feel like didn't we say before that he was in a decent enough spot as well?
He was in a middle ground spot, I think.
He didn't need to mutiny.
He didn't need to. I think he just wanted to make like a chaotic move.
Well, I just even before
pot.
I just feel like, what's the word? So we can be candid about this. We are recording this after the first episode has gone up. And in the spectator chat, I did read Scott talking about how he just didn't want to go into merge with the other tribe having 0. The other tribe having 0 people. He wanted to make something happen. He thought it'd be boring. So he just flipped because he wanted to.
He literally said, "I'm bored, gonna flip." Like, that's what he did.
And even after he flipped, he didn't he survive a couple votes as well? Yeah.
He did. He survived. So first vote, like someone from the original Chuegan went.
Yep.
The second vote, poor Scott, like, was left out because I remember he was convinced that Cassie and Madeline, him and JSF were going to stay a strong 4. Cassie and Madeline were like confident with 12. So then Scott was left on the outs when JSF was voted out. And then I think personally, I feel like Scott made a mistake in that he kind of antagonized Cassie and Madeline. Like, he was like, "Why'd you do that? JSF was with us. Like, why'd you do that? Why'd you do that?" And so then what happened was Cassie and Madeline were like not very comfortable with that. And I also don't think they're comfortable with the fact that, you know, Scott can always flip back to Sukjai. Like, he can do that. And Sukjai might welcome him more than them because he's just familiar. And
especially after they had betrayed him.
Exactly.
I think another thing that I alluded to, I believe, with the on the Sylvia, when we talked about Sylvia, was that it's very important when you're on the bottom to appeal to where they need to, like, appeal to the right sense of them. Like, don't let your emotions. This is gonna sound hypocritical because I know that I've been guilty of this, but try not to let your emotions cloud what you're trying to say to people. Because if you come off angry and bitter and frustrated, it's going to just push them further away from you. And when you're on the bottom, it's not something that you have the luxury of doing.
It's very easy to let your emotions get to you, and you don't want to show that to other players.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that wraps up today's episode. We did from 59 to 41. We'll see you next time when we do the next 20, and hope you guys are enjoying this. First of all, I really enjoyed seeing the the activity that it brought on. Like, everyone was going crazy in the chat, talking about things, talking about where they would put people, talking about where they think they're going to be, and that's what this is all about. Just like some nice interaction. If you have a different opinion to us, that's okay too. Just like go crazy with it. Also, do your polls. Still, anyone else have anything to say?
I'm gonna say that just remember, this ranking isn't like your overall ranking as a player. It's just for this org. Like, sometimes you just get swap screwed, or sometimes you get screwed over by time zones, and like that shouldn't reflect how you feel about yourself as a player. Like, don't feel too hurt if you feel like you've been if you feel like you're in one of the earlier videos and that you haven't been ranked highly compared to your other orgs, because at the end of the day, like, sometimes you just get lucky, or sometimes there's just a bunch of other players who just really shine, and it's pretty hard to outshine them. So, like, but if you're upset and you want to have a chat, that's okay. We're always happy to have a chat. But do your polls, especially the birthday one.
Shut up, no one
Yeah,
cares.
just going off of May, like just follow my lead. Like I'm obviously pretty low on this. It's not going to be based on like everyone's performance in every single org. It's just this org. So obviously you can be better in different orgs. It doesn't like show as a player.
Remember, Theon was in the bottom 5. If you're
Exactly.
ranked above Theon, you're already beyond a god.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Toodles.